Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'll just say a few words about myself, because this program is really about you. Thank you, Vince. Vince and I were having breakfast yesterday, and I told him that for a long time I really haven't done the same old LinkedIn presentation. Notice my use of finger quotes. I'll be pulling out the finger semicolon later. But I think by now everybody's been to at least 1, 2, 3, 4 LinkedIn talks. It is an enigmatic site that has just come through a lot of change. So I'm really here to speak about the changes, what I've been calling the great LinkedIn makeover of 2017. And we have noticed the changes. Yes?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was not LinkedIn as usual. It hasn't been LinkedIn as usual for a long time, and there's something to be said for how we navigate this. So blending the pragmatic and the creative, it's the same site that it was. It's got new parents, but at the same time, the basic premises have stayed the same. But I think that when people get into the boat, there's no plan. And I'm here to provide a practical as well as a cognitive roadmap for you, so that when you have a compass, sorry, the remote is sticking out, getting used to it, it's not my home remote. So that when you are in the boat and the waves get a little choppy and the nautical metaphor kind of dissipates and you're confronted with the idea of what is happening on this website, who are these people, what do you need to do, how do people win business or advance their careers on a site like this, right? Isn't that what we kind of all want to know by now? The speaker said, nodding his head with for implicit agreement from the audience. It's all there. Cool. So again, how many people here would consider themselves regular, that is, daily LinkedIn users, on the site every day doing at least something? How many people are still in the forest and can't see it for the trees? Novices, green, somewhat clueless, lost. Well, good. We're an educated audience here today. And how many people here are gainfully employed, currently working? How many people in career transition at some level of the transition? Okay. So it's kind of an equal blend, Vince. We were talking about the makeup of the audience, because there's business development and there's career development on LinkedIn, and I think the two equilibrate. I think that what sellers do to generate leads for business, to sell a product or service, is very similar to what the impact candidate is trying to do on LinkedIn, generate leads for a job search. We're all leveraging the system in some way. I'll get into leverage in a little bit. So there they are. The faces of LinkedIn. How come you can't get anybody on the phone in customer service? Because they're all spending their millions, if not billions, on improving the system, so to speak. 24/7 call center would be nice, would it not? And we all know what happened about this time last year, about actually 14 months ago. Microsoft acquired LinkedIn for $26.2 billion. My guess is that the transaction involved people who run in marathons, correct? And we all know what that is? What is that? Yes, we all know from geometry it's a triangle. Absolutely, and that's really what I'm speaking to you about here today, is the change that has occurred and how we're supposed to be managing it, or what the best ways are to manage it. And I did have Vince print out a little piece I just published for a sales journal about managing change. It kind of a three-prong. I like the power of three. Tips in threes, techniques in threes, pieces in three. Three little stratagems about how people are effectively managing change to drive home the point that really nothing has changed. And the basic premise of LinkedIn has stayed the same. We're on LinkedIn to build three things. Always have been and always will be. The first is a brand. What we call a personal brand. Personal branding is a huge conversation right now. Can't go too much outside the realm of social media without hearing about building a brand. And if it's not the personal brand, it's the corporate brand. The second thing we build on LinkedIn is a network. You build a brand, you build a network, a professional network that ideally is opportunity rich. People we know, people who are within our tribes first and then extend out. into the LinkedIn stratosphere. Through people we know, we meet other people. We're introduced. We get into the kind of the fabric of LinkedIn and start observing what's happening. And the third piece is the business case for yourself. Build a brand, build a network, build a business case for yourself. Those are the three activities that are carried out on LinkedIn. All of this other stuff, the social selling, the thought leadership, the mentoring, finding people, keeping tabs on people, competitive intelligence, that's all part of what we're doing on LinkedIn to either advance ourselves in business or to make the career move. And once you start using LinkedIn effectively, you do create what I like to call a competitive advantage. So my whole practice is predicated on giving each of my clients and students a competitive advantage, not only in using the site, but in really extrapolating the information they extract from it and apply it to the real world. And this, I think, is where the disconnect comes in, because we know about the internet, right? You know how to navigate a website. You know where this stuff is. But it's how you take what you see through the medium of the internet and apply it to the physical feet on the floor, handshake world. I'm exploring a very interesting space right now, and that is thought leadership. I firmly believe that people have just transformed themselves through the use of a site like LinkedIn because they are able to assert themselves in a way that is authentic and purposeful and engage with people in a meaningful manner. And that's all we're trying to do. At the end of the day, financial advisors, life coaches, whatever the situation might be, we're all looking for a welcome set of ears to tell our stories to. Would you agree? And the more people we tell our stories to, the more people who kind of file us away in their psychic hierarchy, the more we start to build brand. You don't just build brand overnight. It takes a while. And I firmly believe that much of what we call our brands have been kind of there since childhood. It's just a question of extracting it out now in front of the business community. And there's a point where idle activity on LinkedIn turns strategic. And that's when you know you've kind of arrived, when you actually start to see that everything you do on the site has a purpose. Even the solve if you're a genius puzzles that we're all starting to see, even the more Facebook-esque type posts that are kind of coming out there. I'm hearing this all the time, that LinkedIn is now basically Facebook with business people on the other end. True, but there's a certain method to that madness. And I'm the first to tell you that there's a lot of junk and noise on LinkedIn. But it's the people who kind of leapfrog over that noise and junk and get to the real core and understand that people on the other end are trying to have a voice just like them. That's when the interactions become real. And I kind of operate on LinkedIn like a drone these days, which is a good strategy that I'll impart. You don't really have a plan when you hit the site. You're just kind of scrolling down, right? And you're just kind of, oh, well, this appeals to me. Maybe I'll click here. If you read an article, you come back to LinkedIn, you review a profile or two, maybe the profiles of people you're going to meet with. You look at the messages, the inbox. I mean, there's a very drone-like feel to how we look at a site like LinkedIn. No rhyme or reason. But sometimes stuff sticks. And I always look for the stuff that sticks. I'm on LinkedIn probably more than most of you, but at the same time, I'm using it effectively because I'm attaching significance and value to what I'm looking at. I congratulate people when they've had anniversaries. I'll wish them happy birthday because I look at that as very crucial touch points in the business sequence. Keeping myself top of mind, as they say. How many people do that? Keeping top of mind. But don't send, of course, the default LinkedIn generic congrats. All right. So now we can move on to the three things that I will speak about this morning. And I do want some audience interaction. Feel free to interrupt me with questions that are on target and on spot, okay? Deal? All right. Building the brand. The first of the three builds on LinkedIn. What does brand mean to people? If you ask 100 people what the term brand would mean, you get 100 different answers. Some with overlap. I mean, obviously we know that there are certain things that are in everybody's definition of brand. How do you define brand?
Identity, your identity.
Identity. Let's hear the terms. Shoot them out.
Reputation.
Reputation.
Value statement.
Value statement. Have we exhausted our cliche terms? Or are we just afraid to shout them out?
Differentiation.
Differentiation, great one.
What you bring.
What you bring. Marker. It's what stays in the room after you leave. All of that stuff. I define brand as a personal asset. It's an asset. It's both a tangible and an intangible. It's something that you can hear, see, feel, and touch, but at the same time, we exist like a vapor in the minds of others, and in the hearts of others. So brand, truthfully, is everything that you shouted out. And it's how people in the real world carry a vision or an image about us in the real world. Sometimes it's strong, and when it's strong, it's good. And when it's in the business context, it's real good. But sometimes it's weak. There's a fine line between being well-branded and eminently forgettable. And in this day and age, on a site like LinkedIn, with everybody trying to get business, trying to generate leads, trying to advance their careers, it's very, very tough to get noticed. So the real challenge today on LinkedIn, of course, it's about finding people to sell to, or that can help you reach your goal. But it's about getting noticed. Two strategies on LinkedIn: get found and get noticed. The get found strategy is the one you've been hearing about in the last decade, about making sure your profile is keyworded properly with the appropriate density of phrases that would get you found in search by clients, prospects, or recruiters. That kind of strategy. The other strategy is the get noticed strategy, where you're doing things on LinkedIn that get you noticed. You're doing things that separate you from the herd, truthfully. And the people that are truly winning business on LinkedIn are effectively managing conversations, they're making good decisions, and they're getting back to people. They're following up, they're doing what they need to do. That's how you stand out on a site like LinkedIn. Because wherever you go, whatever you do, there is a decision on you. Whether it's as a client, whether it's as an advisor, whether it's as a first-degree connection. If you're set up for good decision-making, the odds will go in your favor. So I don't stack too much text in my slides, but I will on this one. I've been saying this since I really started doing the work. It's kind of what I call the owlish hypothesis, as my company is named Owlish Communications. And the more that we've kind of innovated around LinkedIn, and it's been about 11 years for me, full immersion into the world of LinkedIn, the more I've seen that it just comes back to the whole piece of the profile. What you offer on your LinkedIn profile will drive your outcomes. Period. And I can show you all sorts of strategies. I can tell you what to do. But still, you're out there. You're tied to this profile. You're tethered to it. So if people want to learn anything about you, as it has become your de facto reference point in business, it's going through that LinkedIn profile. So think about what you have on yours right now. Does it truly speak to your capabilities and qualities? If not, why not? Did you default and just plug in your resume? How many people have done that? How many people are sitting with a redundant profile that's just their resume? So nobody has ever plugged the term dynamic, results-oriented, motivated, creative problem solver with a proven track record who builds, manages, and leads cross-functional teams and communicates effectively across all organizational levels into a search engine. You have to start telling a story. Storytelling is what impacts the emotions and the intellect. Now I know that some people who may be restricted, there is an extent to which you can tell stories on LinkedIn, and the extent to which people feel comfortable in telling stories. It's very difficult for people to put themselves out there in glorified, over-the-top testimonial terms. This might apply to you. So they default the resume, because the resume has no pronouns. It's past tense. It's good stuff. It's stuff that's characterized through your whole career. You're not talking about the projects you've botched or the clients you've mismanaged. You're talking about your present value and your future potential. You're talking about client pain. What are the client's problems? You know which ones you solve, right? You know, everybody here is just thinking about the problems the client's pain. 99 out of 100 of the profiles I read do not talk about the client's pain. It's written from the point of view of the individual, yourselves. But me as the reader, I have a problem. I need you as a trusted advisor. What should I see? What do you want me to see? We have the ability to shape, manage, and guide perceptions, all in a nanosecond. Think of when you download a profile page. What are you looking for? In the old days, in the old LinkedIn, and I pine for the way it used to be, because the eye was drawn to the upper left-hand side of the internet page. You're waiting for that photo to download. You're waiting for the name to download, the professional headline. You're taking in all this information rapidly. This is quick uptake. And we're all experienced users now, even mobile. We just expect to see certain things. We can make a split-second decision based on text and lexical cues. Lexical cues and visual cues. Good headshots mean everything, even in the new format. Becoming a trusted advisor on LinkedIn, the hardest thing to do is to create trust at the level of an internet page, at the level of a profile. How is it done? How is it done? How do people surmise you, get an idea as to what you do, the problems you solve, want to go forward with you and accept your invitation to connect, but better yet, will return your messages, will return your phone calls, and engage in a meaningful dialogue with you? I am living proof that the profile can be set up for the types of conversations you want. I don't do a lick of selling on LinkedIn. Why?
Because your profile sells itself.
I just take people to my profile, everything they need to know about me to make a decision as to whether to move forward with me anyway. Whether it's as a connection, whether it's an engagement, whether it's to outsource the writing of their profile to me, it's set up at my profile. Their problems are stated, not my accomplishments and achievements. I'm not throwing any kind of honors and awards, or it's stuff I've done. It merits attention and mention, but my profile is written in a client-centric tone. I know what kinds of problems my clients experience, my students experience. They want to learn LinkedIn. It's an enigma to them. They need their profile written because they can't string two sentences together. They need help in exploring the world of social media for business because they know that decisions are made at that basal level to move them forward. So to become a trusted advisor on LinkedIn as opposed to just an account or a profile, that requires some deep introspection. And I know that you have different areas of expertise, but there's one in particular. There's got to be, because that's the essence of branding. Differentiation, as our good friend John had mentioned. Differentiation. How do you strategically differentiate yourself? What is your dominant aspect of value? What do you do better than the gal across the hall, the gal at the end of the table, or the other cluster of advisors that are trying to compete for the same business you are? You're in a relationship business. People have to perceive this about you. It's very tough to differentiate a commodity, but those who do commoditize, and we're all commodities at this point, are the ones that stand out. So I'm going to have you think long and hard about what are you best known for in business. Just take a moment and write down a short phrase, a couple of words, some text. And I mean go at it. Dig deep, do the work. It's okay to speak of yourself in glorified terms. No cheating on the person's paper next to you. can always go back to it too. I don't want to interrupt people who are writing. Another couple seconds. And cut. How many people wrote something that does not exist, currently, does not exist anywhere on their LinkedIn profiles? Does not exist. How many people imported something that already exists on the profile? The point is that sometimes we think about ourselves differently when we're putting ourselves out there for consumption as opposed to what we really want our clients and potential clients or decision makers at companies to see about us. This is exceedingly common, almost to a person. And the coaching piece that I built into my practice through the years is getting people to own their uniqueness and their greatness. And it's okay to assert yourself in that way. How many people feel that what they wrote here today will make it to their profile at some point? All right, my work is done. Thank you. Second piece, we've talked about building a brand. Anybody remember what the second build is? Build a network. And we could go literally a half day or a full day on this. I mean, building the network. There's so many philosophies around how we build our own personal, professional network, correct? You have your own vetting criteria. You know, ideally, what makes a good connection for you. The misnomer, especially in the selling professions, is that you get on LinkedIn and you're going to search for prospects, as opposed to take the time to build the relationships necessary to ease the prospect into the buyer's journey with you, correct? Now, when we build networks, we all kind of attach significance to the people within them. People do have economic value to us, correct? Social capital and all of that. There are people who are close to us. There are in our inner sanctums. And these are satisfied clients, people who would take a bullet for you. Well, figuratively, not literally. There are people who will refer you, introduce you, evangelize you, correct? These are your sources, your go-to people, your peeps, your posse, so to speak. Then there are people who are kind of like out there on the fringe, and you don't know what their value truly is to you. You don't know if they're prospects. You don't know if you can qualify them as prospects. You don't know if they're mentors, if they're resources to you for the types of things that you need out there in business. And so much opportunity is lost because we bring people into our networks, and that's it. Invitation, received, accepted, we don't know why. It's almost mechanical. We're accepting invitations from people, and then what? Everybody goes their separate ways. It's as if you worked so hard to make the connection, and with just a click, you've accepted your first-degree connections. Well, I always thought that once you're a first-degree connection with someone, it changes the whole dynamic. Even if you've never met the person, there's opportunities to kind of build something out through that. And I've been the guy that does that. I'm usually the more proactive. How many first-degree connections are in here? I know Vince is one, I know John is one, I know Michael is one. I don't know if anybody's my first-degree connection, but if you, whatever, if you've invited me or I've invited you, you've gone through about 3 or 4 messages from me. You know who I am. And is that dangerous? Could be. But at the same time, this is what separates you. This is your opportunity to build a brand. I sat with so many people at the computer, going through their inbox, which is just accrued dozens, if not hundreds, of unanswered, unacted upon invitations to connect. This is incredible lost opportunity. JD, I don't accept invitations from people because I think they're just trying to sell me something. What are you trying to do? That's the thing. There's almost a predatory behavior about it. Now, granted, there's spammers galore in our midst, but we have the intellect to recognize them, correct? We know when we're being spam. We know there are people out there who are harvesting our emails for surreptitious purposes. You connect with someone and suddenly, boom, their e-newsletter is in your off LinkedIn email. I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do. But the people who are out there building authentic, mature, professional business relationships are not going to do that. They're going to be courteous, they're going to be respectful, and they're going to show you human decency by maybe a couple of emails before the conversation even floats to business. This is a strategy worth clinging to because you don't want to sell too soon, correct? You don't want to connect with someone and then all of a sudden attach your 3-color brochure to the next LinkedIn message. You don't want to alienate people, I think. And what I've always done is, again, reviewing profiles, very important. Anybody that I connect with, I've usually corroborated it with a view of my profile. We'll talk about the LinkedIn profile view in a moment. But you always want to send people to your profile if it's built out to market you in the most effective way. So classical prospecting, the way that we use LinkedIn to search, I could show you that. You know how to plug stuff into a search engine, right? Yes? I don't need to go through all of that. It's easy to filter it down, and if you do have the Sales Navigator, how many people have the Sales Navigator? It's not an essential. Sales Navigator affords you a little bit more depth and breadth of search, but still, everything now is an organic effort, so you don't really need to search all of LinkedIn for clients, and you're not going to build trust that way anyway. So prospecting today is really mining opportunities from your own LinkedIn network and stuff that now comes down the pike from this point on. Because now you've been to one of my talks, and you'll be able to see that you're only going to connect with genuine people.
I was wondering, Caroline called.
Hi, Caroline.
Nice meeting you. What time of the day do you go in LinkedIn? Do you do it late at night? I've heard different ways. First thing in the morning, late at night, on the weekend?
I live on LinkedIn.
Okay,
I'm
so
always
all day
there.
long? Okay.
Would you suggest upgrading your LinkedIn membership to a higher level than the basic level?
Had you asked me that before the Microsoft acquisition, I would have said you will know it when you know it. Because if you're constantly being rerouted to the Upgrade Now page and it frustrates you, LinkedIn has gone to a pay-to-play model. And there's no intermediate memberships now. I think all you can go up to is Sales Navigator.
There's a premium.
There is a premium?
Yeah, but you can't do the advanced search on it, so.
Exactly, okay.
You end up dropping it.
All I know is that the people that, they will not pay $80 a month for Sales Navigator. I have a business premium plus that was grandfathered in. So LinkedIn is hitting my Visa card for like $200 some in February. But I get the in-mails and I get the expanded who's viewed my profile metrics. Those are the two that make all the difference.
We'll get that on premium.
You get that on premium.
Yeah.
And that's all you really do.
And how much is the premium?
29.
$29 a month?
Yeah.
See how out of touch I am?
Unless you do it annual, then it's 25.
Yeah. Well, I pay an I mean, my plan, again, grandfathered in, they no longer offer it. I guess they don't call it by name. So I have as much search as I need. I have the email capabilities, and I'm set with that. Sales Navigator is more of a lead generation platform, a B2B sales platform. And I have heard from people who have kind of gotten into it that they don't see the value compared to what they had before. And unless you're truly using LinkedIn in a meaningful fashion, you're not going to see the value of the free program.
When I've heard examples of people that have gotten into it and then can't get out of it.
After, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, well, okay, this isn't what I thought it was. I want to cancel this subscription, and it's next to impossible
And they can't.
to find a way to cancel it. I guess you could
Technology.
cancel the credit card.
Technology. So, and again, but in terms of prospecting and searching for people, those lists are available anywhere, anytime, any place. You can get the lists of CEOs at middle market companies. You can get all these lists. They've already been pre-generated. If you generate them on LinkedIn, you still have to form a relationship with these people. nobody's cracking through that facade. I mean, it's still tough to get through the gatekeeper without the relationship, yes? So what I try to do, the way that I've generated leads and won business, because I know that's what everybody wants to hear, is strictly focusing on what I call M-to-M interactions, mind-to-mind interactions. If I can't see you, if I can't hear you, I've got only one way to reach you, and what is that? Hint. Email. A LinkedIn dedicated system. LinkedIn has gone to a messaging system. This is actually one thing that I do like. You cannot archive messages. There's no formal inbox. It's now like what we call a messenger system. So for those of you who are on Facebook, this was a direct take from Facebook. The way that Facebook kind of stockpiles messages on the left-hand side of the screen. So you now have, in effect, a LinkedIn messenger system. And I've used this advantageously because that way I can keep the important conversations in front of me. You just delete them if they A, run their course, B, lost any relevance or value to you, or C, you just feel like it because you think they're trying to sell you something. Correct? How many people do use the messenger system to keep tabs of important conversations? And they do kind of run their course, right? I think it's akin to like keeping plates spinning, right? You have to kind of continuously add a little bit of force and touch to a plate to keep it going. Sometimes they just stop, drop, and crash on their own, but again, the conversations that blossom into business are the ones that either you generate or they generate that you're somehow able to keep in momentum until somehow one of you, ideally the seller, will choose a lane and you now have created the sales moment. Sales trainers will tell you that it's all about creating the sales moment. I'm no different. I can go back and forth with people as long as it takes, build equity into relationship, and then talk about a certain problem they may have. And think about what that is to you. You all have your own ways of selling the product or the service or yourself. At what point do you see the clearing and kind of find your influence? And isn't that what selling is all about, is trying to influence an outcome? Even if it's trying to get into a decision maker, for those of you in transition. It's about gaining trust and gaining the faith and confidence of people and getting the introduction. Pulling conversations out. It's John.
Do you find you get more engagement with people if you keep the conversations going in Messenger as opposed
I do.
As opposed to let carry on this conversation through email?
Pulling it off of LinkedIn, there are some conversations that you have to keep on LinkedIn for a couple of reasons. First of all, how many people here work in an internally controlled email environment? Anybody here? There are some here. Sometimes you have to manage LinkedIn messages on LinkedIn. You can't pull them out. But once you pull them out into the real world and you've passed through the firewalls and all the anti-spam protection stuff, you now have your email signature blocks, your contact information. People can now file you the way that they like to file you, and you keep those conversations going. I'm constantly, I do not look at email as drudgery. I really never have. I look at that as the sound of the cash register. Now, not everybody returns emails. Have we noticed this? Not everybody's as cool about email as I am, or as you are. And you like them to return the email. You probably spent a lot of time. You proofread it 2 or 3 times. And it went out there. It's a thing of beauty. Oh, this is going to sell me magnificently. And nothing comes back. So what do you do next? You call them. And you leave a thing of beauty voicemail. Which, by the way, voicemails are huge in business these days, right? The art of leaving a good voicemail, very important, right? Thank God for pound 3. We all know what pound 3 is, right? I expect a huge laugh on that. If you screw up a voicemail on the standard system and you hit pound, 3 is the redo, the re-record. So if you screw it up, you mumble, the dog barks in the background, start over. So leaving voicemails, leaving emails, communicating, you can do as much as you can, and ideally, they may not return your message. But the good news is that they have an email address that's tied in with LinkedIn. So if you've got the email address given to those people who are trying to sell them something, you may not wind up in their inbox anyway. Messages on LinkedIn will make it to the people. So there are some conversations. John, I answered your question. Yeah, I keep exclusively on LinkedIn because I just can't reach them off LinkedIn. Other questions? Another text-heavy slide. But again, the only metric I care about in continuing the conversation on the paid LinkedIn program, if you have more than 5 LinkedIn profile views, or if you're starting to get more traffic to your page, LinkedIn free will only give you the last 5. Now, it's still something to pay attention to because as the next profile view comes in, it displaces the last one. It's kind of a, you accounting folks would know this, what is it? First in, last out type of profile view system? First in, first out, yeah, there you go. So it displaces it, and you lose those profile views. The expanded LinkedIn metrics over 90 days, I pay close attention to that. I'm on that constantly, so someone asks me how long I'm on LinkedIn. If I'm going on LinkedIn, one of the first things I do, if not the first, is see who's viewed my profile. And many times it's just a casual view. They're either first-degree connections already, they're people that I might not be interested in bringing into the network, they're just checking me out, whatever the case may be. Professional stalking, as we've heard about. But often we don't know until we do what? View their profile. One of the great strategies is to match profile views with profile views, because unless that first profile view was an accident, and in the mobile era there are accidental profile views, I've had them, you've got 2 touch points out there now. So here's what I do, and here's the strategy around this. It's not a cookie cutter strategy. Apply it as you see fit. Somebody views your profile, what are you normally going to do first thing?
Click on their profile.
Click on their profile. So ideally, that's 2 touch points. We all familiar with the touch point, the touches in sales these days, yes? So I've got 2 touch points going. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do in terms of my conversion chain to at least get momentum going in the relationship. Ready? This is a thing of beauty. What am I going to do? I'm usually the more proactive one. I'm going to review their profile. If I've made a decision that I would like to connect with them, I'm not going to send them an invitation right away. You're not, JD? I'm not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find out if I can email them or connect with them through the LinkedIn groups. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the LinkedIn groups because they're basically dead. They're ghost towns. Very little engagement going on in the groups. Have we all noticed this? Good, we can move on. But the groups do serve a very valuable purpose in connectivity, because if you share membership with someone in a group, you can message them for free, paid LinkedIn user or not. So there is some credence to joining multiple LinkedIn groups. You're allowed to join 100. So join the big ones. Join the ones where your prospects are, obviously, because you have greater connectivity toward them. Hope you found that helpful. So if I can find them in a group, I'll message them for free. Otherwise, I have to burn one of my inmates. I do pay for LinkedIn. So I will find a way to approach people before sending them an invitation to connect. Many times on their profile, and I encourage my clients to do this, their off LinkedIn email address is there. So many times I will go off LinkedIn, send them a message off LinkedIn, and encourage them to first review my profile a second time and then connect with me. So the third touch point is an approach. Vince, thank you for your recent visit to my LinkedIn profile. In reviewing yours, I feel we may have synergies worth exploring. Should you choose to send me an invitation to connect on LinkedIn, I will gladly accept. Respectfully, comma, JD. Notice the use of the finger comma. Now, picture yourself on the receiving end of a message like that. Am I trying to sell you something? It's okay, you can spit it back at me. Am I trying to sell you something?
Yes.
You innocuous, well, myself, of course. I'm trying to hurl myself on people, right? But I've innocuously responded to what you thought was a casual profile visit. Gee, I thought he would let it get away. Did he actually message me? He reviewed my profile, then he messaged me. So if you're into the networking frame of mind thing and you are into building meaningful business relationships, you might reply back to me and say, yeah, I heard about you through somewhere. I mean, a little bit of truth serum now comes out, how you found each other, what happened. It's not that you're not hiding behind any default text, now you're starting to have a conversation. And in many cases, I will follow that up with my own invitation. So the reply is the fourth invitation, or the reply email. The fifth touch point becomes the actual LinkedIn invitation, which at that point may be the default standardized greeting, which I can understand. I don't chide people if they send out a default greeting, whether it's on mobile or desktop, without, because we've had these correspondences already. So I'm up to 5 touch points. What's the 6th touch point? I'm accepting the invitation. I've accepted the invitation. 6 touch points. I haven't had any real-world conversation with these people. But this is happening ideally quickly, so brand is building. 7th, I noticed that with the LinkedIn invitation, there was a view of my profile. It's 2 views of my profile, it's an invitation to connect. What am I doing the next time? I'm following up. I'm thanking them for sending me the invitation. Vince, thank you for the invitation to connect. Nice to be officially linked in with you. Might you be free this week for a phone call? Question mark. Regards. You've moved from respectfully into the regards system. You know what the regard system is, right? Starts out with just plain regards. Goes to warm regards. Or lukewarm regards. Fond regards, kind regards. And then best regards. And then to just best. Comment. When you get a best, I like those emails. Best. Anybody sign off on emails? Best. It's cool. It's endearing. Best. So then, another reply with the phone number, and then you do the coffee waltz, or you try to set up a phone call at some point. But look at what's happened. Is there a lot of effort expenditure on that for me? Does that sound easy? Is it something that you feel you could do? But why don't we do it? Some people just don't do it. Oh, they'll never buy from me. Maybe they're not really my ideal client profile. Maybe they don't have any money to spend, that kind of thing. I mean, there's these projections that we make on people just based on what they're showing us online. Go to someone who's really built out a profile where you can make a decision as to whether they'd be a good connection, and you're kind of in the ballpark. I know I spent a little bit of time on that, but it gets to the core, the molecular building blocks of community building and managing a network. And that is, when it starts off really, really great with trust, it usually proceeds with trust and ends with trust, correct? And there's perhaps a chance to engage in a transaction. Transactional marketing on LinkedIn is very difficult. And so many people in my field tell you that you can double, triple, quadruple your sales through their LinkedIn program. And I'm here to say that that's not how it works. It has to be this kind of organic bootstrapping approach. Otherwise, you're going to be blown out of the water. You're not going to build trust with anyone. Nobody likes to receive spam messages these days. They're only going to buy from you. They don't care that you were President's Club Award winner in 2002 through 2009. They care about what you can do for them today, what problems you're solving, and that's what's got to be spelled out on the profile. A couple things for you to do before we move on. Are we okay on time? Can I still go?
10 minutes.
Another 10 minutes? Well, I'll stick around too if anybody, by the way, wants to share a question or story with me. But to perform an audit of your network, go through your network and literally, this might sound harsh, figure out who stays and who goes. I've done it. I'm into my 3rd internal audit of my network because things keep changing so rapidly. And you built this network. You wake up one morning, you look at it, and LinkedIn does not offer the most intuitive CRM system. So you look at it and you go, who are these people? What do they want with me? Why did I bring them in my network in the first place? Take it on a name-by-name, case-by-case basis. And for those of you who don't have a ton of first-degree connections, this will not take long. But what you will find is the way that you manage your network effectively through this audit, you'll learn who the key relationships are for you, isolate them on a separate piece of paper, and just touch base with them. Make a phone call, do a reacquaint. And think about right now, I'd like to end the second piece with just a generic question in your mind. Not so much ideal client profile, but who are the people that you most need to connect with? Who are the bringers of business for you? You know who your prospect is, your ideal client, your decision maker. But sometimes that's not the way to get the win. Who are the people who can lead you headfirst into a positive environment where you can sell? They're either advisors, they're people in organizations, could be this organization. This is a very fertile organization for growth. It's a camaraderie-driven organization. I can hear the buzz when I walked in the door. These are the types of conversations that lead to, you know who you should talk to, Mike? The thing is, now you have to talk to that person. You just can't walk out without the information. All right? Third module. We had build a brand, build a network. What was the third? I love it when people listen. Building the business case for yourself. And how do we do that? How do you build a business case for yourself?
So you're the subject matter expert.
How do you do that?
There's a number of ways. Articles.
Articles. What a novel approach. What else?
I mean, you respond to other people's articles. You comment.
You respond to other people's articles. What else? What do we call that? What do we call that in practice? We call it engagement. You engage. You build a business case on LinkedIn through engagement. Putting up a stellar LinkedIn profile and not participating on the site is akin to having a Ferrari and letting it sit in the garage.
Can't afford to drive.
Can't afford the drive, can't afford the upkeep.
Yeah.
That's right. But you can afford the upkeep. Profile is updated, it's current, it's written from the client's point of view, talks about client pain, has you perfectly positioned in their mind. You're not using the valuable real estate underneath your name to do some wacky kind of keywording or call yourself some kind of title that nobody would search for. You're creating value, your job position, your company name, you're there. Your reputation hinges on those first two pieces. And you can evangelize your own presence on the site through content, because we all know that content is say. Well played. Now I want you to know that I am not a gender-biased speaker. All right, ladies,
Queen.
you got it. This is engagement. Yes, on LinkedIn, if you put out a piece, and people are doing this, you're noticing that as bad as some of the writing might be, as ludicrous as some of these posts might be, people are engaging on the site. They're just trying to get out. They're trying to blast through the static, just like you. And if you haven't tried it yet, even if you're putting out pieces that are of high value, that are to an esoteric market, you still have to put stuff out there. And it should be a constant thing. The best time to post things, because of LinkedIn's algorithms and the way and the rapidity with which information moves across the platform, stuff can either stay on for a couple days or it can dissipate and nobody sees it. There's a certain message in the bottle type feel to what we put out that we don't know who's going to see it. I'm in the same boat with you. When I put stuff out there, there's some stuff that I expect will draw heavy engagement, and it really doesn't. And stuff that I just kind of like, commented, or shared on, picks up a discussion that moves along for weeks. And through engagement, I'm meeting people, I'm connecting with people. When you engage on someone else's post, when people engage on your post, you have to do something with that. You're now facilitating a conversation. It's not just about posting stuff about how great your company's new methodology is, your proprietary solutions. It's about going out there and being supportive to a network and telling them that you like what they wrote. And again, that message in a bottle feel. Algorithms move tremendous amounts of information through the LinkedIn site at once. So in the old days when you thought about updating your profile and thought to yourself, ooh, everyone in my network is going to see it, and that's really not the case. They'd have to literally physically be in front of their screen as it hits their feed for them to see it. And because the feed is so manipulated these days, and we're seeing so many sponsored ads and stuff we don't want to see. How many people are seeing ads from companies they simply just don't want to see on their page? There's just got to be a better way to get stuff from our networks. I want to see what my network is up to. I like reading their posts. I like engaging on their posts. I will share it if it's good. And then once you share stuff, once you like stuff, once you comment on stuff, and insightful commentary, not the great post Steve commentary. But once you're really starting to move stuff along, you start to get coverage in other people's networks. They see you. They'll review your profile. Looks like someone I would like to be connected with. They'll reach out to you. This is how it's done, and that requires time, folks. I'm sorry, you cannot phone it in. But that's why you want to do this like a drone, because you're clicking here, you're clicking there. You want to kind of spread yourself out instead of looking for, well, let's see, what are the prospects doing these days? You won't find it. The stuff finds you. Mobile use is going to account for about 70% of LinkedIn use moving forward. So we're all getting brand on the run, with apologies to Paul McCartney. People are taking you in even quicker than ever. They're waiting for their train. They're waiting for their son's football game to start, their daughter's recital to start. They're just swiping screens, looking at stuff, refreshing, seeing what comes down the pipe. Profile views. This is how we're managing LinkedIn today. This is the average user. How many people kind of fall into that? Especially if you have the mobile app. And if you don't, I do recommend it. You can get a lot done on the mobile app in terms of storing information about people. But you want to restrict your hard target communications to the desktop. Because try as you may, and I'm very conscientious about this, I still make typos when I'm doing it on my phone. So usually I will wait till when I have a chance to sit down and really focus to do it, because typos can kill your brain.
I just have a question about mobile. I hadn't thought about this till you mentioned it. Should you be thinking about how your profile is formatted and organized so that it is more conducive to viewing on a phone or a smaller format device?
The answer is a partial yes and a huge yes, because LinkedIn has already done that. It has made their formatting, their document page, very mobile friendly. It's a vertical cascade of information. A couple swipes down, they now have the feature that I absolutely loathe, where you only get 256 characters, including spaces, for the first summary piece. So where you can't really have that long-winded sentence anymore, because it's going to be interrupted by more. And you have to now tap to get the full summary. So to your point, yes, streamline the best of the best about you into those first, say, 15 to 20 words, because that will motivate people to keep reading. In the old days, I would tell people, you want to keep them scrolling. You want to keep people on your profile page as long as possible. And you don't have to build it out heavily. And my profile, which is not the best teaching example, is very heavily built out. I encourage you all to take a look. And I will respond to you. But at the same time, what I've done is that's an information hub on me. I don't want people to leave. I want people to have an action step, whatever it is. Go to my website, send me an invitation to connect, reach out to me through an email, whatever. I'm the most receptive guy on the site. I don't blow up anybody, and I don't connect with lions just because they're lions. Do we all know what lions are? L-I-O-N, LinkedIn, Open Networker. People who wear their network sizes in their name field. John Tyler, 22,000 plus connections. I never had a meaningful conversation with a lion. The other fill-in-the-blank question I was shooting for, John, about how we engage is through video. How many people here are contemplating or have video or are contemplating the use of video in their branding strategy? I've been saying for quite some time that I think the busiest people in the next couple of years are going to be video producers and ghostwriters. Because people are going to want to get video out. It's not a mainstream practice yet, but I'm sure you've noticed in the feed there's more and more video. Even just people in front of the camera talking about their value proposition. So I've kind of pioneered that technique years ago. I call it the LinkedIn profile welcome video, because so many people have these types of videos on a primary website, so that when you click on a LinkedIn profile, there's this kind of similar vehicle welcoming you to the page and imploring you to scroll down and learn more about the subject. Those are very specific videos, they're very targeted, they're very strategic. People may not have time to sit there and look at what you've written, but if they see a video with your face in front of it and a launch button, and it goes less than a minute, they'll fire it up. So when you think about building the business case for yourself, ask the following questions. Why you? And why now? And that's the essence of building it. It's harder work than that. Part of building the brand and building the network is inclusive in this. But at the same time, through content, written, audio, visual, however you're getting yourself out there, whatever you're expressing, you have to kind of start to subliminally or overtly build a business case for yourself and talk about why you. You don't just put programs together. You guide people to educated decisions about a very important piece of their lives. How will you differentiate? What is different about you as opposed to her? You provide the same service, you do it differently. We need to hear about how you do it differently, why you do it differently. What are the benefits to me? Always talk about client benefits. Try not to use corporate speak. Simple terms. If you're in the kitchen table market, talk about what matters most to the markets you serve. If you're in the decision makers arena, if you're in the executive compensation arena, if you're talking to very high level people who understand very sophisticated avenues of finance, talk to them on those levels. Then your profile serves as a clearinghouse for those who won't be doing business with you anyway, or maybe kicking your tires. We've all had that. We all have the prospect that just won't buy. In my book, I just kind of say, okay, I have to move on. You have all the information you need. I'm here for you, but I'm going to go, I'll be here. I'll be in this area. So I'm going to wrap up. It's time to wrap up, right? I've thrown a lot at you, haven't I? Wasn't really practical, tactical, or tactical and, technique stuff, right? Because I know you know that. Dorothy, you've had the power to go back to Kansas all along. You don't need me. But what I've tried to do is kind of conceptualize that as much as this site has changed through the years, it still comes down to the basic premises of looking good, representing yourself well, connecting with the right people, and transferring communications from the digital to the real world. That's all. That's all LinkedIn is. Don't overthink it. But if you want to overthink it, I'm available to you to help you overthink it. Last thing before I pause for a few questions, and I'll stick around for anybody who wants to ask me. If you have any private questions regarding your own LinkedIn thing, get me while I'm cheap. I'm here for you. I will answer any and all questions. If you'd like me to keep in touch with you, I have a form. It's a contact information form. I'm what's called a permission marketer. I'm not going to ask Vince for the attendee list and start badgering you with emails. I'm not a prolific emailer anyway. But if you'd like to keep in touch with me or have any interest in learning how we might work together to put you on the fast track toward mastery on the site, all I sell is a conversation. No pressure, no obligation. Been doing this since 2006. Full immersion in the space where most people chose to work in all aspects of social media. I really focused on the LinkedIn space. I've gone through its growing pains, and I've really seen the site blossom into a truly fantastic instrument. It amazes me how this thing has transformed so many people. And if anybody's sitting here who has gained a piece of business or has gained an opportunity through LinkedIn, I mean, there's your proof. If it's only been one, you shoot for 2 or 3. For me, it's an everyday occurrence. I don't know where I would be without it. Those are my services. I need not tell you what they are. I don't read my slides to anybody because you're bright, talented, educated people who can multitask. You're absorbing this as I'm speaking to you. Why should I go back and read it? Thank you for having me, Vince. Thank you for your time and attention. It's been a pleasure.